Hello, welcome to IDT Talks. My name is Anastasia Lavrina, and today we have a very special guest in our studio, Farid Shafiyev, chairman of the Baku-based Center of Analysis of International Relations. Hello and welcome to our program.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have many very crucial issues related to the region, and the most important one now is the operation of the Lachin road. As far as I know, Armenia refused Azerbaijan's willingness to use an alternative road, Agdam-Hankendi, despite the fact that this issue has been also discussed in the last meeting between the leaders in Brussels. How would you explain the situation? Why is it happening? Why Prime Minister of Armenia gave a word saying that we agree to consider an alternative roads, but coming back to Armenia thinking totally different way?
You know, I expressed my opinion on the issue of Lachin a couple of times previously, highlighting the history of Lachin. Why? Because that explains a lot why Armenia insists on the use of Lachin road, why Lachin is important for Armenia, and why Lachin is important for Azerbaijan. The first issue, the control over Lachin, is the issue of national security for Azerbaijan. That's why I'm referring to history. Let's recall that in 1992, on 18th of May, Armenia occupied Lachin, and thus we made the road from Armenia to Karabakh. And after that, the dynamics of the conflict has changed because that allowed Armenia to have direct supply of military supply to Karabakh Armenians. And later, in 1993, basically the occupation territories of Azerbaijan outside of Karabakh began with the assault on Kelbejar from two directions, from Armenia proper and from Karabakh. And that, that was possible because they had constant supply of munitions, military personnel from Lachin. That's the core matter. So that's why for Azerbaijan, after the Second Karabakh War, it was important to have control over Lachin. Armenians and those who support them, and unfortunately now we see a range of actors, international actors, and the latest statement from EU, the foreign policy Commissioner Joseph Borrell, that Azerbaijan had commitment over Lachin, to make Lachin available because of the Trilateral statement. So we have different readings of this Trilateral statement. In this Trilateral statement, we have a clause, provision, which says that Azerbaijan is responsible for security of Lachin corridor, Lachin, the whole Lachin. So it is indeed security not only for one side, it's security first of all for Azerbaijan itself. So that's why I'm saying it's the issue of national security. For 3 years it was functioning, and we've seen that the military supply, a rotation of military personnel going through Lachin. So that is indeed against the logic of the Trilateral statement. So we established the checkpoint at Lachin, the border section with Armenia, the Lachin road. So that also changed the whole dynamic. And why Armenia even continue to insist on Lachin? Because indeed it's the Miatsum road. It allows the supply. If really Armenian side is interested in the fate of Armenians in Karabakh, in their well-being, in the supply, we can use road, Agdam road, which was offered. So you need to supply, okay, the Agdam is available. Saying no, why we insisting on Lachin? Indeed, as I said, because they want to control Lachin, to have the constant supply, including military. And I believe, despite of all pressure on Azerbaijan, checkpoint at Lachin will remain. There is some regulations which should be, all sides should adhere. Azerbaijan's regulations, custom regulations, passport control. So that's the one issue. And let me continue that topic. If indeed we look at the trilateral statement, some other provisions of trilateral statement are not implemented. So trilateral statement is not the menu at restaurant where you can pick up what you want. It's the whole document. We have also clause number 9 or article number 9 of trilateral statement, which says that Azerbaijan should have unimpeded access to Nakhchivan. So Armenia interpreted that the unimpeded doesn't mean that it shouldn't have the passport and custom control. The same applies to Azerbaijan, we say about the Lachin road.
Well, and when we speak about the transport regulations and transport communications in the region, if I'm not mistaken, in all of those meetings held in Brussels, 6, and the meetings held in Moscow, in Sochi, in Washington, all big players are saying that we fully support the necessity to open the transport communications in the regions. That means that all of the states are willing to see the free movements of the transport, humanitarian aid, and it's not only about Lachin Road. So why Armenia, do you think, is so consistent about the situation on the Lachin Road, but still trying to ignore those point number 9 from that trilateral statement? And I'm very sorry, there is another very important point in that trilateral statement, which Armenia also ignores. Armenian military forces illegally staying in the Karabakh region of Azerbaijan until now.
Yeah, that's another topic, and I wanted to address that in separate answer. As I said, trilateral statement is not the menu at restaurant. You have to adhere to all provisions. And one of the first provisions was to full withdrawal of Armenian forces. And actually, the Russian peacekeepers should have been deployed in parallel with the full withdrawal. Armenia firstly denied that it has presence. Then last year they said, okay, we have forces, but we're going to withdraw them until September 2022. Now we're saying, yes, we've done that, but we still have intelligence information that there are some illegal forces on Azerbaijan's territory. I think the fundamental question, yes, Armenia pledged at the highest level, Prime Minister Pashinyan pledged to recognize Azerbaijan's territorial integrity, including sovereignty over Karabakh, but I think the tactic a bit changed. We're trying now to get independence for Karabakh through international actors, through third players. That's why they appeal to EU, to ICJ, and some other platforms and the fora. So to get this, the concept what they call remedial cessation, and some international experts also pour water into that. Actually, there is no such concept in international relations, international law. So anyway, that's another issue related to international law. But now the whole tactic, if we look what happened since 1987, it's also we have to refer to history. First, it was Miatsum unification. For 3 years, they tried to get Karabakh to be united with Armenia through the Soviet arrangements, Soviet laws. And on 1st December 1989, they passed Armenian Soviet Parliament at that time, Soviet Supreme. They adopted a law which was nullified, which was, the Moscow at that time, they cancelled this bill, Armenian bill, according with the Soviet legislation. So after 1991, when Armenia and both Azerbaijan became independent, Miatsum unification didn't sound good for international community. It means that the one country would like to enlarge at the expense of another country. So they put this very nice term, self-determination. Self-determination has much more positive connotation among international community, international law. Now we don't have time to discuss all these modalities and specifics around self-determination, but the bottom line, Karabakh Armenians are not entitled to self-determination. That concept we tried to promote for 30 years. In the meantime, the Armenian leaders always said that our final goal is unification. It was said by Kacharian, Sarkisyan, and Pashinyan too, because Pashinyan, let's recall now, a few days ago, he said maybe he was mistaken. He made an error, saying that the Armenian side did not accept reality, that the whole international community recognized Karabakh as a part of Azerbaijan, because in August 2019, Pashinyan himself said that the Karabakh is Armenia. Will obviously spat at that time. So after the Second Karabakh War, the concept of self-determination failed. So now we have third stage, remedial cessation. So we were acting through ICJ, through other, as I said, actors to prove that the Armenians cannot live with Azerbaijanis. It's the concept of Robert Kacharian, which says that the two ethnic groups are incompatible. Unfortunately, some international experts, like Lawrence Broers, also promote this idea. Basically, I mean, if Armenians would like to build mono-ethnic state, it's their business, and basically this is what they did. They fully expelled, ethnically cleansed Azerbaijanis. Now they claim that, Azerbaijani is left voluntarily. I mean, come on. This is the ridiculous claim, and they paid compensation, etc. So we had, yes, unfortunately, this exchange of, not exchange, but the two flows of populations. Also, some Armenians left Azerbaijan during those years. I mean, it's not good. It's tragedy for both people. However, we have now a chance to establish durable peace in the South Caucasus. Unfortunately, I don't think the Armenia is really genuinely ready for that.
Indeed. Azerbaijani side also have Western Azerbaijani community, which is saying about the rights to go back to the native lands, which is a modern Armenia. But we didn't hear any concrete reaction on that proposal made by Azerbaijani side.
Absolutely, and if let's recall all this mass demonstration in Armenia, that the Armenia without Turks, they call both Azerbaijanis and Turks Turkish. So basically, it says the Armenia without Azerbaijanis. Again, we look at the conflict, at the history. The strategy of Armenian nationalism was to purify Armenia from Azerbaijanis, to completely ethnically cleanse. And then when they occupied Karabakh and surrounding regions, they also completely ethnically cleansed Azerbaijanis from there. And I don't know why Lawrence Broers thinks that the ethnic cleansing began right now. I mean, he completely ignores what happened before. Probably fits his agenda. But that's the situation. So we have this concept that the Armenian nation is supreme. This concept indeed has some support among Armenian public. Nizhde and his ideas coming from 30s, from Nazi type ideology. But even right now, the liberals, so-called liberals in Armenia, if we look at some of the comments made by Armenian commentators and experts, we're speaking about Armenians, their rights and security. Not a single Armenian expert said that, yes, we are, they like to talk about the democracy, where they are building democracy. Not a single Armenian, including Pashinyan, said, yes, we are building democracy. For this reason, we have to accept back Azerbaijanis, restitute their properties, their rights. So that is democracy. No, their concept of democracy, quote unquote, is basically I said before, it's what resembles white supremacism in the United States, in some other countries. It's democracy for only one group of people.
I totally agree with what you're saying. And political stability, there is something which has never presented in the Armenian society. Even today, we see that the revanchism is prevails in the policy of the country, and the revanchist movements are going around the streets, are asking the government to take more concrete steps in the issue of opening the Lachin road, how they are saying there is a blockade and etc. And this political instability, the statement which is being made by the authorities, the ignorance of the international calls to move towards a peace deal with Azerbaijan, what can this lead to? What will be the last chance for Armenia to live in a peace environment? Why this situation may be dangerous for the Armenian society itself?
You know, I'm not that pessimistic about the chances of peace, because after all, Pashinyan was re-elected and people voted for him hoping that, you know, peace and stability will be. First of all, of course, we care about Armenia, okay. So we should understand that the peace and stability in Armenia, inside Armenia, cannot be without peace and stability around Armenia.
But we see people on the streets again.
Yes, we see these people. I don't think they are really in big numbers. It's still manageable. The other things that, if taking into account again the history, some terror acts can be committed inside Armenia, some sabotage or something. But so far, I think what's radicals, they cannot really change the government. So that's the most important thing. But again, at the end of the day, Armenians themselves should really decide what they want. They want continued tension, new war, new conflict, new stage of conflict, or new renewed conflict, whatever. So basically that means no peace in the Caucasus, or there is the option indeed to have peace, to have indeed genuinely recognized territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, and of course Azerbaijan will recognize territorial integrity of Armenia. Our pledge, and because we now trying to some of Armenian experts to put say, you know, Azerbaijan is not ready to recognize territorial integrity of Armenia. No, we are ready. I mean, at the highest level it was said, but on a condition that will be mutual agreement. So that's up to Armenians to decide after all.
So can I say that you feel optimistic about the negotiation process between Armenia and Azerbaijan?
No, I said I'm not that pessimistic. To be optimistic about maybe time frame, again, we hear that until the end of the year we can sign this agreement. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. There is some chance. Last year we also heard this kind of the forecast. But, you know, the Armenian politics, the whole situation is unpredictable. So it's very hard to make what time frame we have for that process, when it will end, when we will have the final document to be signed. There are some geopolitical factors also influencing the situation. So I was indeed a bit more optimistic, and even expressed that maybe in May, in June, we'll sign something previously. But now, in terms of the concrete period, okay, by December, by January 2024, now I'm not that sure.
Do you feel that Armenia is now most West-oriented rather than East-oriented as it was within the last 10 years? Who is mostly controlling now the situation in this country?
You see, it's also a complex situation. There are some forces inside Pashinyan government, and probably himself too. He would like to have Armenians more Western oriented. But in what sense? We have to make this correction. When Pashinyan came to power, he made a lot of promises, and we've seen a bit shift towards the West. But I think the Armenia wanted EU money, more EU orientation, more Western orientation, more deeper cooperation with the United States. But in the meantime, in terms of its territorial, I would say, adventure, territorial claims and occupation, they thought that Russia will be guarantor of Armenian occupation and territorial control of Azerbaijani territories. That didn't happen because Russia indeed has commitment only confined to Armenian territory. Karabakh is Azerbaijan's territory. And they failed during the Second Karabakh War. But after all, they still remains the allies, economic and the military allies. There are some politicians, some experts inside Armenia who would like to promote more Western-oriented policy. But, I mean, with all these territorial claims under different disguise, remedial cessation or whatever, I mean, Armenia is not an independent country and won't be an independent country until really it will stop this territorial irredentist adventure.
And my final question about militarization of Armenia. We see that some countries are still thinking if they send more weapons to Armenia, it will somehow stabilize the situation. A month ago, there were some articles in the internet published by some independent sources saying that France is sending some military equipment to Armenia, which can be after used by Iran or Russia, which were also a warning message for European Union. And just some days ago, we also noticed that a new military cargo were delivered to Armenia through the territory of Iran. How dangerous is the situation from India, right?
Also. No, it shows, it manifests that indeed how much Armenia would like to have peace in the region. If really they're thinking about the peace, I mean, it's the country which cannot afford much of the military hardware. So they taking from our projects, important projects, economic projects. It's again the final questions to Armenians: what they would like, how they would like to see their future. Always with problems with Azerbaijan and Turkey. That means also with two neighbors, you cannot have peace. In terms of the military balance, I don't think with additional equipments will change dramatically situation. But what it means that both Armenia and Azerbaijan will remain adversaries. That's it.
So let's see how the situation will be developed. Now I'm also not that much optimistic feeling about the future development, but let's see how it will be in the future if we can sign a peace agreement until the end of this year. Mr. Shafiyev, thank you. Thank you so much for joining our program today. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you.